That's right.
You're the host. What are you talking about? I'm drinking.
Hey, fuck this guy. I'm just kidding. Alright. NBA playoffs 2008. First round coverage. Here you go. First matchup. Celtics against Hawks. 1-8 matchup.
Eastern Conference. Hawks made the playoffs. Don't believe it.
They did?
Mike Bibby made the playoffs. So Mike Bibby versus the Boston Celtics. I'm going to go Boston Celtics.
Alright. I'll agree with you there. 2-7 matchup. You got 76ers against the Pistons. Who
Name
like?
3 people on the 76ers. That's all I have to say.
Well, I could name Samuel Dallenberg, Miller, and Andre Iguodala. I mean, you know, when you think about it, who's going to stop Samuel Dallenberg in the playoffs?
Anyone who weighs more than 170 pounds.
All right, I'll give you the Pistons probably in a
Pistons
sweep.
in a sweep.
All right, I'll give you that. 3-6 matchup: Toronto Raptors, Orlando Magic. Hometown Orlando Magic. Who you like?
Let's just assume that the games are going to be stopped at halftime. I'm going to pick the Orlando Magic.
Well, we're gonna play these to the end.
Oh, so fourth quarter counts?
Yeah, fourth quarter counts.
Wow. If I were to actually bet money on it, I'd take the Raptors, but I'm going to bet with my heart, being that they're the hometown team, and I'll go with the Orlando Magic. No money on it.
Well, I'll take the Raptors, and this is why. Because the Magic, they rely on their three-point shooting too much. They led the league in three-pointers attempted, and the reason that happens is when you have Dwight Howard down low, you have 3 people collapse on him every time the ball's thrown down there. So then he has to kick it back out. And you have even Rashard Lewis, your big offseason pickup. He's a power forward, and he's playing on the perimeter, shooting threes with these guys. And they're living and dying by the three-point. Even if they are able to slip past the Raptors, that's by far, I mean, they probably get swept in the second round.
I agree. There's no way they'd even make it past the second round. They don't have the roster, and yeah, they can't close out a game.
And trust me, Wizards beat them in the second round. That gives us our next pick. Washington Wizards against Cleveland Cavaliers, 4-5 matchup. Who you like?
Cavs easily. I don't think the Wizards
I like the Wizards, obviously.
They don't have the firepower. I think Cleveland's new additions.
Don't have the firepower.
No, I don't think they do.
Caron Butler.
Gilbert Arenas.
There
you go. I'll help you out a little bit.
You know, Jameson. They don't have the firepower.
I don't think that they can pull it off. I think that LeBron will.
I'll go on a limb here. Cleveland doesn't have the firepower. I mean, when you talk about, okay, LeBron and then what?
Do you need more than LeBron? LeBron is going to refuse to let them lose. With Ben Wallace.
That's the only way they win the series.
Okay.
Is if LeBron refuses to let them lose, which he's the best player in the NBA, and he's capable of doing that. But I don't think it happens. You know, this team has not gelled. The last 18 games, I think they've gone 9-9. They're not playing that well together.
They're going to play at a whole new level in the playoffs. Their regular season
is here.
Let's
hope so.
Their playoff basketball is going to be here. They're going to pull it all together, and they're going to take this one out.
Let's hope so. I've got the Wizards in 6 games here. I don't think that Cleveland can really hang with them. Cleveland's beat them the last 3 years in the play, or the last 2 years in the playoffs. I don't think they beat them the third year.
Western Conference.
All right, Western Conference 1-8 matchup. You got the Nuggets against the Lakers. Who you like?
I don't like the Nuggets.
How can you not like the Nuggets? They score, 120 points a game?
And their opponents score 140 points a game, so what good does that do you?
Sure.
They have absolutely no defense whatsoever.
And you're right, George Karl cannot get them to play enough defense for a 7-game series to actually win it, especially against the Lakers. You know, if they had been able to get the Hornets maybe, because they have a little bit more experience, but I don't think this happens. I'll give them 1 game, but I like Lakers in 5.
I mean, they could take 2 games, but when it breaks down to who's going to win the series, the Lakers are going to absolutely take the series, hands down, no question about it. Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony cannot do it by themselves.
Do you think Andrew Bynum comes back to make enough of a difference for the Lakers for them to win the whole thing?
I don't know if he comes back, but if he does come back, I think he's going to make a significant difference and help them out a lot.
All right, well, that remains to be seen. The 2-7 matchup, New Orleans Hornets against Dallas Mavericks.
Dallas Mavericks, I wasn't a believer, and I wasn't a believer. But I'll tell you what, I'm starting to become a believer. I'm going to take the Dallas Mavericks in this series. They're on the upswing. They're hot right now, and I think that they're definitely going to pull them out.
I couldn't disagree more. You know, the New Orleans Hornets, everybody tells them that they're young and inexperienced, and it's not true. You know, Peja Stojakovic has more playoff experience than almost anybody in the entire playoffs.
Peja Stojakovic has playoff experience, but what is his playoff experience? His basketball career is summed up by playing great during the regular season and shooting at a high percentage, and as soon as it comes to the playoffs and a clutch basket that's needed by their three-point shooter, he chokes. He cannot hit a shot in the playoffs. So I don't care how good he is in the regular season. Unlike Mike Bibby, who can hit big shots, right? Peja Stojakovic cannot hit big shots in the playoffs. So you're sitting there with your premise that he is going to pull them or bail them out with three-point shots, and it's not going to happen.
Well, you're referring to the Kings. When Bibby and Stojakovic played together, you're right. Stojakovic didn't hit the big shots when they needed. Mike Bibby, I'll give you, Mike Bibby might have been able to. But now you're talking about the Hornets. And the Stojakovic, he doesn't need to hit the big shots now either, because you have Chris Paul, who's probably the MVP, or should be the MVP of the league.
Double team.
All right, well, I think you and I agree. Hornets. All right, you got 3-6 matchup. You got the Phoenix Suns and then San Antonio Spurs. This is usually a Western Conference Finals matchup, especially when you consider Shaq in the mix, not this season. First round, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the Phoenix Suns are fun to watch, and that's basically where it ends when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, if they were facing someone else in the first round, we'd be talking about them advancing, but talking about them facing the San Antonio Spurs, there's absolutely no way that they're getting past the Spurs.
I wouldn't say no way.
I don't think it's going to happen.
When you consider you have Steve Nash, who's the reigning MVP two-time, and then you add in Shaq, who, albeit at the end of his career, is still a phenomenal player who gets you rebounds and points when you need him to, and he's experienced. I mean, he has, 4 rings? I mean, he has enough rings for all his fingers. What could you really ask for as far as playoff experience and ability to win?
Well, although Steve Nash's year this year is even better than his back-to-back MVP years, he's not the reigning MVP. Dirk Nowitzki is the reigning MVP, and that's another reason why Dallas is going to win, going back to our last matchup. But this matchup, the Suns are one of my favorite teams, and they're not going to win. I'm sorry to say it. I don't like the Spurs. I think they're boring. As a team defensively and as a team offensively, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds, very limited turnovers. They force turnovers. You know what I mean? The San Antonio Spurs, I hate to say it, but there's not too many teams in the league that could beat them in a 7-game series.
All right. Well, I mean, I think the Spurs are going to win this series as well. But that's assuming that all their players live through the series, because they're all so old they might die before the season ends. But
it's true.
I like them in 6 or 7 games. I hope for the Spurs' sake that it doesn't go more than 6 games, because they're so old they're not going to have the ability to go longer than that. If it goes to 7 games, watch out in the next round, because they're probably going to get taken on by a younger team, and they might be out of gas by then.
Well, if the season goes long enough, they're probably going to be so hungover from somebody's 45th birthday party that they won't be able to play good.
All right, what do you think about Utah Jazz, Houston Rockets 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference?
Well, I don't like the Houston Rockets. I'll be honest with you. They
won 22 games in a row?
They live and die on Tracy McGrady, and there's absolutely no way that they're going to get past the Jazz.
I'll tell you what, I like the Rockets. They won 20-some games in a row this year. They proved that they're a good team. They're a solid team. Everybody wrote them off, out of the playoffs completely once Yao Ming went down. But they were able to stay in the playoff contention. They actually moved up. They were leading the Western Conference for a while. Now they dropped back a little bit because the West Conference is real tight. But, I'll tell you, the reason that the Utah Jazz are going to win this series is because they have Carlos Boozer down low. An MVP candidate for this season and beyond, Deron Williams, and he'll lead them to a victory. But not only that, recently Rafer Alston got hurt for the Rockets. He's their point guard, and he does a lot for that offense. They have a lot of role players around Tracy McGrady, right? They rely on Tracy McGrady to win series, to win games, but not this time. The Utah Jazz, they're actually my dark horse pick to go all the way in the Western Conference.
Well, I got 2 things to say. One, if you watch the Houston Rockets game, even during their stretch, but any time in the season, if on TNT or whatever station they had the game on, if the score wasn't up there and you didn't actually know they were winning, you would think that they lost every game, because they're not that impressive. You don't see any good team ball out of them. I'm just never impressed with them. The second thing is Williams has already come up big. He's come up huge in the playoffs. That guy's amazing for being new to the league, and he's going to come up even bigger this year. And just like LeBron, he's going to refuse to let his team lose.
No, I agree. I like the Jazz in probably 5 or 6 games.
5 or 6. Definitely.
All right. There's your 2008 NBA playoff first round.